you check the children? Show a little match sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes. That is what
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
Jaime Fuego here.
And we are joined once again by friend of the show, Monte Yazzie. And if you see Monte, you know that means it's festival time here on the Horror Show channel. We get to go and take part in the International Horror and Sci-Fi Film Festival, part of the Phoenix Film Festival that is happening every single year out here. And we are always supremely excited to do this because, quite frankly, it's really funny. I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound like a plug to Monte because he's very familiar with their own marketing, but I have historically found a new favorite horror movie every time that I have gone to the event. And what is the slogan, Monte?
Our slogan is
movie, right?
Find your new favorite horror. For you, find your new favorite horror film.
Exactly,
yeah.
Exactly. And that has historically been the case. So every year, Monte comes on the channel and we get to highlight the movies that the International Horror and Sci-Fi Film Festival is showcasing this year at the event. You guys are more than willing or more than able to come and take part in said event to see these movies. We are just telling you what movies are available and what movies we will likely be talking about in the future. I think last year my big takeaway was the hell of a game, Gatlop.
Yes.
Gatlop was one of my favorites from last year, and I walked out of that theater going like, this movie's going to get some heat when it hits the streaming services, and it did, and it was great. And I mean, things from excuse me. Let me take a breath.
Cut it out.
Hang on.
I know. I'm just doing the Danny Tan.
Some of the highlights for me in the past were I'll Take Your Dead, as well as The Final Girls. Years ago, I think that was one of the last fall showcases that the IHSFF had.
When they were doing
but my God, I have seen some of the best horror movies I've seen in the past decade at this event. So I'm always excited to hear what Monte has bringing to our table this year.
Yeah, all kinds of awesome programming. And so I just want to make mention that even though we are a horror-centric, sort of bit, there are some interesting international features, most notably that you have programmed in the science fiction section of stuff. So, I mean, we have something from Turkey, we have something from Bulgaria, Canada, sort of co-production of sorts. Is there, for those who are more genre leaning to the science fiction, bit of thrilling, what is your recommendation on that, Monte?
Well, guys, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm such a big fan of you guys. You guys know how much I love seeing you guys at the festival and watching you try to make your way through crowds so that you can make our crazy schedule of movies on the weekend. And it's so fun to watch you guys do your interviews outside and your post reactions outside. I need to make more time to make faces at you guys as you guys are doing that
every
year.
But, you can see Monte walking in the background of one of our reviews.
At least one, for sure.
But, we're so excited. It's such a great time to be at the festival. And, as you mentioned, we have such a diverse, set of films that we have set up. We have a small group of programmers, Danny Marinino and Brandon Kitchen. Yeah, they're our horror feature and shorts programmers. And then we have Michael Stackpole, who does our sci-fi features and our shorts. We have myself and Maddie Robb, who are doing kind of our work with social media and developing these showcases. But Jaime, your question about understanding these sci-fi films, Michael Stackpole, man, he's the guy. He's the guy that curates these features. And we got Coyote, we got Once Upon a Time in the Future, 2021. We have Algorithmics. We have Phi 1.618. I think I got that right.
Yeah.
All of these flicks, and the cool part about them is they all are diverse in kind of what they're doing. Coyote isn't like Once Upon a Time in the Future, but again, they are international and they are hits in different places, and it's kind of interesting to talk to our friends in the festival circuit who kind of give us a heads up of hey, be on the lookout for this one or be on the lookout for this one, and it's fun to see them come through. But I always tell people, if you're a sci-fi fan, you know, when we talk about the International Horror and Sci-Fi Film Festival,
Oh yeah,
we emphasize that part of international for our sci-fi showcase.
nice, man. Yeah, and I mean, in that regard, just looking at the eclecticism is really impressive. But so not one of the features, but one of the showcase, because you guys do differentiate between the two. I have to mention, just the title alone amused me. It's apparently being given some high praise by John Waters, you know, for better or for worse, for those who, you know, love Divine and Pink Flamingos and some of the stuff that she did. So smoking causes coughing. It's from the director who did Rubber and Mandibles more recently.
Yep.
I watched the trailer. I'm so into the schlock, man. What's your take on this one?
The thing I love most about director Quentin Dupois, or however you say his name, the thing I love most about him is the fact that he takes everything so serious. Even, you know, a story about a killer tire, he takes so serious.
Which you wouldn't think.
Smoking causes, yeah, exactly. And smoking causes coughing. If you watch the trailer, it looks like a Saturday morning Power Rangers cartoon, tripped up on acid. It's a wild film.
With the animal talking to them and everything, giving them a deep breathing and such.
There's a talking rat. There's goo and slime, and then there's a task force who's tasked with, you know, solving all of these extraterrestrial problems across the world. But it takes itself so serious, and I think that's what I love most about it, is the fact that it does feel silly, it does feel slapstickish, it does you know, zany is a great word for it, but you know, the director just takes everything so serious, and it looks great. It's funny. It's one of those films that I always tell people I like to program at a great time when we can get that good crossover traffic, where maybe we have some folks who are like, you know, I'm not really into sci-fi or horror so much, but man, this trailer looks crazy and I want to go check it out. I always talk about a movie from the past called Dave Made a Maze.
Oh man, he was working on that Tremors reboot recently that got axed, which really bums me out. But damn you, Universal. Oh well.
But Dave Made a Maze was that same thing where it's like it feels like, where does this fit in with horror sci-fi, right? Like, it doesn't quite feel sci-fi enough, it doesn't quite feel horror enough, but it has that weird
rom-com.
Yeah, and I think, you know, coughing causes coughing feels like smoking causes coughing fits that idea of it being like a fantasy sci-fi romp. And it's a great film. It almost feels at times like it's a bunch of little stories all coming together for one feature-length film.
It's almost episodic in that regard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think there's something really ingenious about that. And again, like, I can't emphasize just how serious a director takes everything that he does. And I think there's something really, like, beautiful about that.
Awesome.
Yeah, sometimes the overly seriousness can yield itself to even more comedic elements, I would say. You know,
yeah,
so
very much.
Awesome. So there are also a ton of very important sci-fi shorts, which we would urge everybody to, you know, just take the time to check out. There's 3 different days, I think, when the sci-fi shorts are going to be screening. So but once again, we are a horror show, the horror show channel, and all of that. So we are going to be jumping into the horror features and then give a little brief rundown of the horror showcase stuff as well. So honestly, the one that I am most intrigued about, based on premise alone, is Bad Connection, because of the fact that I feel like premise-wise, the fact that, okay, you need a phone, and, you know, I'm gonna buy it from some sort of surly sort of person and whatnot, and then there is very nasty evidence of crimes being committed on this phone, and how do you handle said situation. This is one that I'm very intrigued about, especially after I watched the trailer. The lead lady was killing it. I thought she was terrific. But give us some rundown about Bad Connection, man.
You know what's awesome about Bad Connection is the fact that, you know, there's so many spins on slasher films, right? What can you do with a slasher these days? How do you make it interesting? And the fact that this film starts off with a stolen cell phone that has terrible stuff on it, and the waitress is down on her luck and needs this cell phone.
Davis. I was just double checking on her name. Yeah.
And then a madman with a hunting knife starts chasing her down to get his info back. I mean, it's Jake Helgren is the director of this film, and I think you know, for those folks who are slasher fans, you know, we got Scream coming up soon, and it's always fun to feel like, what's the next slasher? Or, how are people going to reinvent it? And the director here, Jake Helgren, does a wonderful job of really creating some tension and some really unique moments, and kind of getting us into a slasher film in a very interesting way. But yeah, definitely a crowd pleaser for this one.
Excellent.
Cool.
So the next one that I'm intrigued about, because of the fact that we were, well, I don't know if you were as much of a friend or like fan and friend of this the Night of Something Strange Merchant.
Oh, yeah.
Like we became buddies with him.
Right.
But
Michael Merchant.
so Johnny Z, give us a lowdown on this one, man. It looks a little more
Johnny
action centric,
Z.
and
Yeah.
I'm all about it after watching the trailer. So give us a lowdown, man.
So for those of you that have watched Night of Something Strange, the director is the same guy. Jonathan Straiton is back again. Michael Merchant is the lead in the film.
Yeah.
Johnny Z is a horror action feature film with a lot of heart and some good comedy, and it's all about a half human, half zombie whose name is Johnny, and I think we know where we get the Z from.
Yeah.
It is filled with martial arts. It is filled with action, and in the truest sense of Night of Something Strange, you're going to get some pretty gnarly gore effects as well too. I'm really excited. It's always a treat when a filmmaker comes back, and we always tell people that the best gift that you can give us if you've ever come to the festival is to resubmit your next film to us.
Amen.
And the fact that these guys are have been working at it and have made quite a few different films since Night of Something Strange, the fact that we can have them back is always a great treat. And it's so funny. I remember at the festival when I was chatting with them, they were talking about, we got this great thing called Johnny Z. We have this great thing called Johnny Z, and next thing a few years down the line, here it is, and it's in our hands, and we're so happy that we get to play it again this year. And it's just great. It's just fun that we get to revisit with some of these filmmakers every now and then. And Johnny Z is that great, like, late night action horror combination. It hits a sweet spot.
Nice.
Especially for those guys from the I always think of USA Up All Night.
Yes.
I always think that Johnny Z could fit really nicely in a USA Up All Night
I used to
package.
love that shit, hosted by Gilbert Gottfried.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
big time, man. Excellent. So the third one that I want to make reference to, at least as far as the features section, most notably because of the fact that their country has been ravaged and all of the craziness going down in the Ukraine, and that is in a dark room. So was this produced and filmed and everything before the chaos kind of started to transpire over there? Do you have any of those details?
The details on this one, we aren't exactly sure when production happened, but when you watch the film, you can feel the tension. You can feel kind of the turmoil. I always tell people that genre film is a great way to get an insight into what the world looks like. And I'm not exactly sure if In a Dark Room happened during or after, or maybe leading up to those events, but you can feel it in the film. You can feel there's some kind of tension going on. There's some kind of atmosphere, some forebodance that's happening in the film. And even though it's it's about a small town, misfit teens who discover a sect of some dark forces.
It's got kind of a punk rock aspect to it, which I appreciate. So
yeah, definitely. The director is Denis Sobolev, I think is how you pronounce his name. But you can definitely feel like there's something leading to there's an atmosphere that's in the film that adds a sense of dread that is happening in the movie. So hopefully when we get the film to the festival, maybe we'll get some more insight if we get some of the cast and crew here. It's always difficult, especially if the film is from outside of the States. We always hope that we can get some filmmakers here, and I'm hopeful that we can get some of the crew from the film to show up to spread some more light on that and talk maybe a little bit more in depth as to what their challenges are as filmmakers from a place that unfortunately isn't the kindest place right now.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's definitely an intense place right now. And so the last one, and we're gonna lightning round through the showcase stuff, but the last of the features is the one that I'm probably the least well versed about, and that's Mind, Body, Spirit. It's the only, actually, it's not the only one from the United States. Sorry, I had regions here on my notes and stuff. But so so give us some insight about this one, because the premise about, you know, it's like kind of yoga Pilates or something, or, you know, and I don't want to sound like a derp, so inform me and the audiences properly.
So our programmer Brandon Kitchen, who does a lot of the features for horror, he had no idea that Monte over here is a yoga trained. They call me a yoga master. I took a 200-hour yoga training, and I've been 500 hours certified. And I always tell people, always say that, and they're like, "Oh, Monte, you can do like, you know, all these. You can put yourself in a pretzel." And I'm like, "No, like mine's like for like older people. It was for work. I did it for work to like help, you know, with fall prevention and these different things." But you know, the fact that when Brandon told me about it, I was like, "Hey, a yoga influencer who, you know, embarks on a terrible ritual that, you know, unfortunately yields some terrible results."
And it was a Telluride, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So,
The performances in this film are exceptional. The person who plays the yoga influencer, Sarah J. Bartholomew, is actually a trained yoga person. So the fact that we have those elements to kind of add some realism into it, and you know, it starts off kind of lighthearted and kind of takes a turn into something that becomes a little bit more intense. So
all too often, I'd love
yeah.
the calm before the storm in those sort of films, man. You know, it just kind of gives you that sense of, you know, like unease, you know, as it starts to gradually build. So
yeah, but definitely a great group of performances that happen here, and a unique horror film that, you know, kind of takes a whole lot of twists and turns and takes you to unexpected places.
Excellent. Okay, so now as we just veer in a little more of a brief fashion into the rest of the stuff, so this is the showcase. So, I mean, can you at least give us a little bit of distinction between the two separate segments? So the features, for instance, are the ones where people can vote on, right? And the showcase is its own separate sort of thing, right?
Correct. Our feature films are competition films. So these are films that have been submitted to the festival for consideration in our competition. Our showcase films are the ones that are handpicked. Many of them already have distribution. Many of them have already had premieres at other festivals, or maybe some of them are even on their way to streaming platforms.
Shudder. There's a couple going there.
Yeah. Yep. A few of them are going to Shudder. We work really closely with our friends from Shudder and a bunch of different other brands, IFC, Yellow Veil, and they help us kind of curate our setup here. But you know, our opener for the evening is for Friday, March 24th, is a movie called Rebirth.
That's the one that I was going to ask you about, man. Marin Ireland, dude.
Yeah. Rebirth is a really fun one. I like films that can be small and create dread with a small group of people. And Rebirth is a story just really about three people. Starts off as about a mom and her child, and you know, kind of moves into something more sinister. And the biggest, like, I think the simplistic way of saying it is that, you know, it starts off with a pathologist who is obsessed with reanimating the dead. And
are they named
something
Herbert
happens,
West?
right? But something happens something happens in the story where a family then needs to utilize these skill sets to help bring someone back. And it takes a lot of great turns, and it's really intense at times, and the performances are really wonderful. And you know, again, it's kind of like one of those small horror films. I think of a film from years ago called The Autopsy of Jane Doe.
That was the vibe I got from the synopsis. 100%.
Where you got these films that are just like a small group of people just acting their butts off. And you know, this is kind of that same thing where it's a small group of people, but you know, the results are really great because they're allowed to create these great characters, and there's a lot of emotion, and then of course a lot of great frights as well.
Yeah, and I love Brita Wool, and she's in the supporting role on this too, man. She was great on Mr. Mercedes, and she's been in various other things. She's an underrated actress in my estimation, and so yeah, that's Fuego, on my tops, man.
Fuego, was that a way for you to?
You know the segue I'm going for.
Because as soon as I put this, as soon the moment I saw this movie,
It's been
and
on
the
my
moment I
radar
was
for
like-
a year now. Yeah.
the moment I was like, this is gonna be in the festival this year, and the first person I thought of was you.
Yeah, and if anybody that I'm going to interview, if they actually are making out, because I know they're from overseas in Europe who have been putting this together. I found out about the documentary called King on Screen about a year ago.
Oh, boy.
And so, ironically enough, not to like toot horns or anything, but remember during the pandemic in 2020, I did a panel for oh goodness. Anyway, inconsequential. It was basically entitled Stephen King on Screen, and it was exploring all of the different on-screen adaptations and whatnot. And that's what, in a more ambitious fashion, King on Screen is doing. And this has been on my radar since the Stephen King Rules Film Festival, where the woman who is like kind of the primary driving force behind it, she was giving an interview and giving some of her like takes on favorite adaptations and whatever. But dude, the amount, like you can see the enthusiasm rising right here. The stacked guest list that they have on this, like we're talking like Flanagan, we're talking Frank Darabont, some of the most iconic adapters of Cy King. I was so excited to see this getting a proper presentation, thanks to you guys, obviously. Give me some rundown about how getting it involved.
Fuego, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. It's
Bring it on.
It's a deep dive into everything Stephen King, has been adapted for screen, from the big movies to the small ones. And I think that's what made me really appreciate this film so much, is the fact that it does give a lot of insight into those really smaller Stephen King films, the made-for-TV stuff.
There'll be a section on the Night Flyer, goddammit.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've seen them all. So
yeah,
go
there's
for
a
rare,
lot of
man.
really great things, and the guest list is crazy. There's so many people that they get inside here: Mick Garris, Tom Holland, Taylor Hackford, Frank Darabont. You've got so many King lovers basically that are here just to share their love about how they made their films come to life. And I think the fact that it is so specific, and not just talking about The Shining, or not just talking about Creepshow, or not just talking about these different pieces that King might have been involved with, but the fact that they dive so deep into all those films. There's some great stuff about Misery that I never knew happened in this one. There's some wonderful pieces about Shawshank. And Green Mile. There's some good stuff on Green Mile as well too. And I just love that it feels so full and
comprehensive.
Nice. So comprehensive, definitely. But you were the first person I thought of when I presented. I was like, man. And I even made sure to look at the program and say, like, okay, I got to make sure this doesn't conflict.
And because I've had to bite that bullet a few times, man.
Yep, I know.
He would have been a sad panda.
Yeah, indeed. Oh, I'm extremely excited for this, and I think I even donated to the crowdfunding when they were first putting it together, like a year or so ago, now that I think about it. But hey, in any event, King on Screen. I haven't done it properly, but it's going to be Friday the 31st at 9:10 p.m. Friday the 24th at 9:15 p.m. So both evening screenings. I know that's the first time I've got like that divisive and distinctive and stuff. But okay, man. So as far as like the rest of the showcase stuff goes, I love anthologies, man. And Satanic Hispanics has been on my radar.
Satanic Hispanics.
What a title, right?
Good
it's
Lord.
so badass. And the fact that you have like the Terrified director and
Oh, really?
Yeah, and
Love that movie.
and some people behind Into the Dark, Masters of Horror, ABCs of Death, Nightmare Cinema, Tales of Halloween. Like, it is a stacked just ensemble of people doing this anthology, which I know is going to be releasing later this year. But to give us some insight on that one, man.
I love it when we get these anthologies that feel specific culturally. And Satanic Hispanics definitely feels like, the fact that they did such due diligence in making sure that they got people who represent the culture and, allowed them to be the storytellers for these films, and, stack the cast with people who, represent, the culture as well too. I think, there's something really great about that. And, as an anthology, it's one of those things with anthologies, and I talk about this a lot, is people will say, oh, well, this one was good, and, well, that one was good, or, oh, I wish they had a better wraparound. I always get that when we talk about anthologies. You know, there's something about this one though that I just had a huge smile on my face the entire time, because it is like a mix of different styles. And if you look at the directors who are involved, you understand kind of like how they, you know, utilize culture in their storytelling, and understand how they are as filmmakers as well too. And it definitely does fit that personality for each one of those directors. And you know, I just had a huge smile on my face the entire time, and I can't wait for everybody to see it.
I'm excited about it.
Excellent. So there's a few others, but I know we're not trying to take up too much of Monty's time, and so for that reason, if I'm gonna narrow it down, I have to ask about the angry black girl and her monster, a riff on Frankenstein, dude.
That's the name?
Yeah, that's
the angry black girl and her monster.
Yeah,
Wait, is
man.
it about Mary Shelley?
I'm not sure. Monty can most definitely give us some insight, because I would imagine he's seen it if he's going to showcase it. So.
Yes. So Angry Black Girl and Her Monster gets its big premiere at South by Southwest here this week.
Yeah.
But this is like our official closer for the festival. You know, it's
a directorial debut.
Inspired. Right? Correct. Yeah. It is inspired by Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, but it's definitely, you know, influenced again by cultural pieces. And the fact that they're able to shift the story and tell it in a way that feels, you know, that feels like it's influenced by what's going on culturally for, you know, Black Americans in the world today, but also understanding, you know, kind of the social issues that are happening around the world. And the fact that, you know, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein plays such an inspirational piece for it, it's just a wonderful film. And, you know, there are films that you can feel like are made with a whole lot of passion and a whole lot of heart and a whole lot of love. And the performance in this film, the lead performance in the movie, is exceptional. The supporting performances are great. You can definitely feel the director, Romani's story, is one of those guys to be on the lookout for. That he definitely has an understanding of, you know, the tone that he's trying to go for. He understands, you know, maybe the style. He definitely has his own unique style. And this movie, it's again one of those movies I just can't wait. You know, I say that about almost every film where I'm like, I wonder how people are going to respond to this. I think back to One Cut of the Dead. And standing in the hallway. Yeah. I remember standing in the hallway of One Cut of the Dead and begging people, please give me 15 more minutes.
I'm still really curious about that French remake, man, because I haven't seen it yet. Yeah. It's finally going to get distributed, right? From what I understand. Yeah. They've been just sitting on it for a while. So
I haven't seen that one yet either, but I don't know. I don't know how anyone could follow that movie up.
Have you seen the follow-up that they made? Like there was
the one. Yeah,
I haven't watched it yet. I have it on the Blu-ray that I got, but I haven't watched it yet. Is it good?
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was great. It was a nice little companion piece to the original
like a
film,
kind of thing.
Okay,
cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
But Angry Black Girl and Her Monster, I think, you know, it you know, the fact that it's inspired by Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and you know, uses these you know, current social issues for people of color in America. I think, you know, there's something really, really great about that. And, you know, we're in this realm now where, you know, again, I go back to that idea of like how horror films touch on pieces of society. And, you know, there is horror in the world that we live in today. And the fact that they can take those horrors and, you know, shift it into, you know, some really engaging cinema, you know, with some really wonderful performances, I think it's just a wonderful thing. And, you know, it's our closer. It's our closing night film. So we're excited to have folks stick around for that one as well too.
Yeah, I still remember when we were kids, man, going to school together, and you were such a big fan of Candyman, and so and and still to this day. So the reverberation of that, so to speak. Well, I was going to ask about.
Sorry,
I was asking about another one possibly, but you know, since that's the closing thing, I think that is rather befitting to close. And so there are a couple mystery screenings, though, right? That you haven't still filled out. I was looking at the itinerary. Are you gonna I'll take your dead on us last minute, like something really cool, or is that still like kind of up in the air?
The only spot that I had open is now closed, and that movie is called Ashkel.
Oh, okay. I didn't look in the last 2 days, unfortunately. So yeah, that's on me. Yeah.
Ashkel is a film directed by Youssef Chebbi. It's probably the most unique of our late night films because it feels like a crime drama that has a lot of really like dark and foreboding undertones, and I love when we get films like that because it feels great to have these movies that are genre adjacent. And yeah, I say genre adjacent, but this movie does take a hard stance at some point in time in the movie to really become something really, really terrifying. But the fact that it feels like a crime drama for a lot of the times, there's something really unique about that. And again, we're trying to, with our program, we're always looking to, introduce these stories from other countries and really engage these conversations of, what the world looks like from other places and how filmmakers from other cultures utilize the genre to, find an emphasis in, storytelling. And, Ashkel is kind of that same thing again. It's a film that is from a cultural perspective and, does a wonderful job of really engaging, it's horror vibes throughout. There's a lot of them that we have that, Brooklyn 65 is an American film that touches on World War II. Yeah. World War II veterans. And then we got, we got even I always tell people we get these.
I'm curious about Megalomaniac if we're talking international Belgium, dude. Yeah.
Megalomaniac, a film that, is about some real life events that some filmmakers, made a film about. And it's a hard hitting film as well.
Is that the one, if I'm not mistaken, where it's the children of the serial killer and there or is I think
fictionalized
so.
Take.
Yeah,
fictionalized take on that one, but definitely on some real crimes that took place in a small town. And but yeah, hard hitting as well too. I always tell people that when you look at the schedule, if it's past 10 o'clock at nighttime, probably going to be a pretty intense
all bets
one.
are off, man.
So,
I mean,
I
was thinking Greasy Strangler, man.
On the opposite of that, we got even the film called Aliens Abducted My Parents.
Yeah.
And now I feel kind of left out
on the sci-fi side, which looked really fun from the trailer. Yeah, because of the fact that the girl is endeared to him, and yet everybody else is like, oh, he's a weirdo, whatever. But yet he's got kind of the charm and the intrigue and stuff. It seemed like it had like a very sincere sweetness to it from what I saw in the trailer.
It's a sweet family film with genre touches.
Yeah.
And the fact that we can have like these really, really intense films and these really, really like kind of soft, lighthearted, what I like to call, you wouldn't ever hear it from a horror sci-fi, program, but a family film maybe.
Yeah. I'm about it, man. I mean, even though I don't have kids or anything.
Sci-fi for sure.
Yeah, that's sci-fi for sure. Based on the trailer.
No, I know, but still.
Yeah. No, but I love the just variety of the programming, Monty, that you always put together. So there's definitely something that could entice just about anybody, regardless of their genre leanings, so to speak. So
yeah,
it's always a
really excited again, and
of the event.
Super excited. You can find all of the ticketing information on PhoenixFilmFestival.com. We have the full schedules up there. Be on the lookout on our social media sites, Horror Sci-Fi, with Instagram and with Facebook. They're going to have some announcements from our programmers in the next coming days. You guys are going to get tired of seeing my dumb face talk about all these movies and
I love
commercials that we bring up. But again, guys, thank you guys so much for the time, and really appreciate you guys coming out and being so supportive of our festival for the last few years.
Always, my friend.
Always. I mean, there's so much good stuff every single year, and it's so varying in its subject matter and its lessons and its morals and its teachings and its entertainment factor, just as far as horror goes. Like it hits. The films there tend to hit on a lot of different levels that your typical studio releases don't always. So it's always very worth your time to look into the International Horror and Sci-Fi Film Festival every single year.
Yeah.
Right on.
So, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us once again. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel the way that you do. We greatly appreciate each and every one of you guys. I will put a link in the description box down below to get your hands on some tickets to the IHSFF. If you want to make the trek out to Arizona, if you are going to be out in Arizona, what are the dates officially this year, Monte?
So March 23rd.
We are March 23rd through April 2nd.
Perfect. Okay, so yeah, I mean it's a good amount of time. You guys can get out here. Monte programs things where certain movies are played more than once, 2, sometimes 3 times, depending on the film and depending on the availability to show said film. Some movies are only shown once. So, you know, you want to make sure you do your research, find the movies you want to do, and purchase tickets for those movies early so you're sure to get into said movies. But, yeah, I'm very excited, Monte, as always. So thank you very much for coming on, man. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
All right.
Righteous, dude.
Take care, guys. I've been Cecil Laird.
Gracias. I've been Jaime Fuego.
And that's been Monte Yazzie of the International Horror and Sci-Fi Film Festival. Until next time, though, remember, stay scared.